All right, all
Alrighty.
right.
Welcome everyone to the first ever NFL draft recap. We are doing it all together this time. We'd
Yeah,
like to introduce each other.
yeah. So I'm Adam, and I'm Daniel's brother, and I like to watch football.
Yeah, and I'm Luke, and I'm Daniel and Adam's cousin, and I also enjoy watching football.
All right, so we got a little rundown here, looking back at the NFL draft that was. Daniel, do you want to start us off talking about who do you think had the best draft?
Oh man. I think the team that had the best draft, probably the Raiders,
Okay.
because they did pick up Ashton Sensei.
Mhm.
They draft they also drafted Zach Betts, who
Yeah,
could definitely be a receiver one. There was Las Vegas.
I figured you'd be pointing out that they drafted J.J. Pegues. He was your guy.
Yes, he
Got him
was.
in the sixth round.
Honestly, I like Pegues. It reminds me of Chris Jones.
There you go. I think the best draft this time around was the New York Giants. Looking at it, not they pass on quarterback right away, and they go back around and to get Abdul Carter, go back around, trade back into the first, and getting Jackson Dart. I like that he doesn't have to start right away. There's a little bit lower risk since we're starting getting him at the bottom of the first round, but you still get that fifth year option. Um, and then just value all the way around. Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Darius Alexander at the top of the third round is a great defensive tackle from Toledo. Cam Scatabo, one of the top running backs in college. Then I got to shout out my guy Thomas Fidone going in the seventh round, tight end down in Nebraska.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think we've all got different ones. So I went with the Bears. I actually really
Oh,
loved Loveland early, and then I think one of the really kind of steals of the draft was Burden in that second round, and
mm,
so I think they really added to their offense, and then the third rounder getting an offensive tackle, and then Shamar Turner, so another high potential guy in the fourth, and so I think they had a really great draft, and then free agency they had a lot of offensive linemen and some weapons that they've been bringing in, and kind of pairing that with Caleb Williams obviously going into his second year and figuring out if he's really going to be the guy. And so I'll say that was my team that I really liked, and you never know the after the fact, but everybody was saying after the fact there were lots of talk about first round move ups, and then all of a sudden after the Bears took Loveland, Colson, all those kind of, slowed down a little bit. So maybe, that was the guy that a lot of people wanted. And,
yeah.
they kind of got some value there, in my opinion.
Ah, great pick. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much the Bears improve this year.
Yeah, no, they're really, been really aggressive in free agency in the draft. So we'll see.
Yeah. So next question, who do you think had you can take it however you want, either the worst draft or like the weirdest draft, the one that's hardest to understand?
Honestly, like, probably the Raiders a little bit.
Okay.
Ooh,
So the best draft and the
yeah,
weirdest.
Well, I can say the best in probably the Browns for me though,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
because
Mhm.
if anyone watched the movie Draft Day,
Oh yeah.
this reminds me of that situation. Actually, they had it for several seconds in the movie, but they had that second of all this even start 25 to it out of that spot.
Yeah.
Got Mason Graham. In the movie, they got Alvin Mack, I think it was.
Yeah. I also thought the Browns had the weirdest draft, and it's not even because of trading out of the number two spot. I thought that trading down Yeah, you miss out on Travis Hunter, but you still get a solid prospect, and then you add a first round draft pick from the Jaguars next year. I thought that that was a solid move, um, but I think it's the doubling up on positions that was weird for me. Like two running backs and two quarterbacks out of their like 7 picks. I mean, it was just a little weird as far as resource allocation, and with all 5 quarterbacks in that room going into the summer camp, it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, man, we had all different, and then I was like basically on the same boat as you guys with the Browns. I mean, I think they could have, to your point, Daniel, they might be the one that has the best but the weirdest draft, in my
Mhm.
opinion, maybe potentially down the line if if one of their guys ends up hitting, whether that's Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I think
That's
both of
true.
them really have the potential to be good quarterbacks. It's just obviously, like you said, weird that they both got taken by the same team. um,
Yeah.
so so I think it is weird, and like you said, Daniel, there's maybe a few teams this year that had kind of good potentially based on the potential of their draft picks, but weird just based on positional fit and that, and I think the Browns to me were definitely that one. So I know I'm kind of echoing the third guy
Yeah.
here, but to me that was definitely that team.
Yeah, the other one that I thought was interesting was the Falcons, since they got great value in Jalen Walker at 15, but then they trade next year's first rounder to get back up into the bottom of the first round and take James Pierce Jr. I just didn't expect that, especially since they already had just gotten an edge rusher a few picks earlier.
Honestly, like when I was talking about the movie Draft Day, it now reminds me of what the Browns did this year. They took a
Okay.
defensive player, and then later on they drafted a quarterback, and then again they took the quarterback. But still don't think I don't think he had honestly like I like Sergio Daniels. He's a fun player to watch. And I just think he needs more time to develop. So I think the UFL will be a good opportunity for him to take as much time that he needs.
Yeah, so you think he's going to get cut by the Saints and then go to the UFL next year, play for the St. Louis Battlehawks,
Honestly, that's a good fit
or is
for
he get cut by the
him.
Browns?
Like
Well, the Browns, not the Saints. That's them. Well, the next question go ahead.
the Browns, I feel like I like Sergio Daniels. Even if he becomes QB1, I will still like that for him. But I just think he needs a little bit more time.
Fair, it's fair.
That's fair. I think the NFL kind of agreed with us there. So skipping around a little bit, but one of the other questions we had was, what was the biggest surprise of draft weekend? And I think the obvious answer is Shedeur Sanders. What did you guys think about him dropping so far?
I mean, I'll
Insane.
admit I was surprised. I mean, I'll say kind of admittedly a little bit of a hater of him, as just a fan of a rival school and,
Yeah.
the also, just how I'd say cocky and braggadocious he was kind of throughout the year. But still, I'd say very surprised. I mean, I thought maybe the second round.
Yeah.
I thought somebody for sure in the second or the third round I would be making that move up, and I'd say was very shocked to see where he ultimately fell. And yeah, like you said, definitely one of the bigger shocks. Obviously, the headline of all the draft, but a big shock.
Honestly, like insane.
Yeah.
I want to. I did because of that. The entire draft was like one of the highest viewed drafts almost ever.
Oh, maybe that's why it happened. It was under the table, sneaky. They're trying to get those the ratings up for day 3 of the draft. No.
Uh, It
Conspiracy
just
theory I don't believe in.
I just saw that as a headline.
There you go. Is there anything else that surprised you guys?
I'll say like I know, not that it was surprising given kind of the mock drafts or anything like that, but still the Genty at 6, I think just still the running back so early. I think just because of his talent, like people haven't talked about it, and they kind of thought, oh, this is a fine pick. There's still even value, but I think for me, I'm still a little bit surprised, or just like kind of with the whole argument about relative value of running backs. Maybe to me that was still kind of an interesting one. I mean, I get obviously having watched him play the talent, but for me, a little bit surprising as well, especially just, given the how high of a position it was and kind of that premium draft pick.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially with it being such a strong running back class. I mean, Aston Ginty, I think, is going to be a really good player. But if you're talking about, like you said, relative value, and maybe you wouldn't get quite as good of a player, but if you still got a starter in the 3rd round, and then you can use that 6th pick to go get another premium player at a premium position.
Honestly, like, something that still surprised me is Amarion Hampton.
Hmm.
He was drafting a little early in the 1st round by the Chargers.
Do you expect him to go in the 2nd?
Well, I just didn't expect that. I like Amarion Hampton and his style. I just thought he could have been drafted earlier.
Oh,
you thought he would go even earlier?
No, I was gonna say I had seen even like 20 with the Broncos was a really popular one for him as well, and so I was surprised, Daniel. Yeah, I thought you were going on the side kind of more of you thought he might have fallen later, but yeah, I had seen even some like the Broncos or even a few just kind of flyer teams, like even some at like the Bengals or like just kind of other random teams, just that they thought maybe just the value that they might see. But yeah, that was another interesting one. And yeah, pretty good value for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think the other one for me was Will Johnson falling all the way to 47. I really thought that he'd be in the top half of the 1st round. I had him as the top cornerback off of the board. I guess the concern is his foot injury, and that always injury always plays into draft stock because you got to look at availability. But I really thought that he would go a lot higher than he did.
Another thing that surprised me is Seattle's draft.
Okay.
Made out a fun draft by Seattle. Like, in my opinion, I think the same story that they had with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Angel Miller was drafted in the 3rd round.
True.
And what the quarterback they signed before they drafted Russell Wilson was Matt Land. After that monster game he had with the Packers.
Yeah.
And then they drafted Russell Wilson, and then he stole the job. I could see this happening all over again with Jalen Miller and Sam Darnold.
That's a hot take. Wow, that would be a big storyline.
What do you think about that, though?
Yeah, no, I think it could definitely happen. Like you said, I mean, I think clearly, they're probably not as set as people. And I mean, I can't remember exactly how long, but I know was it a 3-year deal that he gave? I can't remember what Darnold's. I knew it wasn't really the 4 or 5 year kind of signaling. This is probably our guy long term. It kind of was more of a at the 3-year kind of a little bit of a prove it. It gives a little bit of stability, but still, I would say shows that they're open to that competition. And I think a lot of what I heard was that Jalen Miller apparently he interviewed and apparently tested really well. All the a lot of GMs really liked him. And I think that's why you saw him in that round. I think maybe even a little bit earlier than kind of the consensus a little bit, maybe later in the draft. I mean, early on in the year, and even years past, there was talk of him being a 1st or 2nd rounder. So, but yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, Daniel, a lot of competition there.
Yeah, I think that's a great spot for him to be in Seattle. Whether he takes a job this year or maybe he'll have a chance to try to take it next year. Yeah, great point. So in that way, it's talking about Jalen Milroe being a great fit in Seattle. What are some great team and player fits that you think for you guys? That what the team may end up
Yeah.
with in the draft?
So I'll tell you that the two that kind of popped out to me were actually both offensive tackles. So Kelvin Banks to the Saints, and then actually the Chiefs offensive tackle Simmons. I think both of them were, very high talent, high potential players. Both teams that really have that need for really young, strong offensive tackles, especially teams that kind of in the next few years are really going to be up on cap crunches. The Saints more so even than the Chiefs, but obviously, the Chiefs with some large deals and some extensions that they have coming up. So I think both teams really saw, hey, we can get a young first round guy that we can have for 5 years and really get at a premium position. The Chiefs maybe right tackle to start and then potentially maybe left tackle, but both of them really, I think, high potential and really a position of need and kind of a premium, contract position. So I think both of those to me at least kind of stuck out as great fits.
Yeah.
Honestly, like a positional fit I see is Matthew Golden in the Packers.
Ah,
Because like they need wide receiver very badly. They needed you have Christian Watson. You have Jalen Reed. I mean Jaden Reed.
Mhm.
And pair those guys with literally Matthew Golden, who's apparently gonna be wearing number 22. But hey, Matthew Golden, I think, fits what the Packers are looking for with his
Speed.
speed, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna go bold with this, but just think about it right now. Like he reminds me a little bit of Devontae Adams.
okay. Okay. Talk about the fit there. I think my favorite fit in the first round, at least, was Jalen Walker to the Falcons. They had such a need at edge rusher for so long, and getting the value of a top 10 player, I think, all the way down at 15. I just thought that was a great fit for the team and a great fit for the player because he's ready to go. He's going to jump in and be a day one starter, and he's going to a team that has a big need for him.
Another team that fit well, Tedward McMillan to Carolina. Come on now. Like big wide
McMillan.
receiver, love the upside with when I talk about Tedward McMillan, he was young here. Still I think he needs time, but I think that connection is going to Tedward McMillan is going to up Bryce Young's but like bring him the best out of him and bring back what we saw Bryce Young play like when he was at Alabama.
Even I'll say even some last year, and especially late last year, he really kind of showed some flashes, and I think almost kind of won them games that they maybe didn't want to win the last year. Really because he showed that he could be that quarterback. So yeah, it will be interesting to see. To your point, with a few more weapons. I mean, I think they still, offensive line, I think was really the big issue for them, more so even than, just the offensive weapons. So they'll still have to address that maybe a little bit, but he did really kind of show some flashes last year of to your point, kind of the Alabama Bryce Young.
Yeah, he looked a lot better. Wrapping up, so kind of like final thoughts. One of the ways that we could take this, I was thinking, Daniel's question was who won the draft? We kind of already asked who had the best draft, but what if we kind of came at it from the point of like, what team is going to be a contender next year or going to take a step forward as a result of their draft class?
So I'll
Honestly,
say the one that I
Mhm.
think are kind of interesting, the one that I mean, it's kind of a cheat considering they kind of traded a future pick, but the Jaguars. I mean, I think the instant impact. I mean, of Travis Hunter, and especially kind of they were in that position really because of the injury to Lawrence. Hopefully he'll be
Yeah.
coming back fully healthy. And I think they really have a really talented team and have kind of underperformed really the last 2 seasons. So I know it's kind of a cheat given that they gave up a future draft pick to get it, and so the impact for this year is obviously going to be bigger. But I think the Jaguars, and I mean I think even last year I kind of thought they might be a sleeper type team, maybe to be a playoff spot contender. And obviously I was definitely proved wrong. Obviously the injury being a heavy contributor to that, but I think that's a team that obviously when you saw that they were going to two, I mean you knew who they were taking,
Yeah.
and I think maybe because of that, it's just the no brainer, and maybe the best.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Daniel?
well, honestly, like I also like what the Saints did with Tyler Sugg
Okay.
because Tyler Sugg, you don't have Derek Carr this next season, and then you drafted Tyler Sugg. That's going to really elevate you. And also, I think that W will be a contender to win the draft. To win the draft, is the Miami Dolphins because they may have to draft a different quarterback in Cornelius because Tua has not yet had a full. Well, he had only one full healthy season. If he can't stay healthy, they might have to draft a different quarterback in Cornelius because Tua still haven't had a fully healthy season yet. And I just think Tua, if he gets his own time, it was era just basically started.
Man, Daniel is the contrarian today. I'll say that I think the Saints and the Dolphins as the top draft was very few analysts I'll say had that. So Daniel is being the contrarian today. We'll see if
Right.
better than the Mel Kipers of the world. I
That's
think
right.
it was quite funny. I think maybe for me one of the highlights of the draft was seeing how frustrated Mel Kiper and some of the NFL draft scouts were for guys that they thought should get drafted falling too far. So maybe that was one of the best moments of the draft too.
It was pretty entertaining. I like what you said there, Luke, about Travis Hunter and the Jaguars. I think that not only on the field is that a big deal for them to get star power of Travis Hunter on offense and on defense, but I also think about like when it comes to getting the fan base excited again for a team that um, has had a couple 1 year runs where they were good and a whole lot of losing in between. Having the excitement of a star player like him, I think will help re-energize the franchise. I think the team that's going to make the biggest jump is going to be the Bears, though. Like you mentioned earlier, Luke. I think that you not only did they add a ton in the offseason to the offensive line, then you get to the draft and they add a great tight end in Colson Loveland, a very underrated wide receiver in Luther Burden, um, and then another offensive lineman in the third. I think that, like you said, if Caleb Williams is the guy, we're going to find that out this year. If he's not, I think we're going to find that out this year. I think they're going to find out that he's going to be the guy, or at least good enough to propel them to a playoff spot.
The worst case scenario for Caleb Williams is like breaking David Carr's record.
That would be that. Yeah, as far as like most sacks.
Yeah, like that's a worst case scenario for him because I don't want that for him, but I just don't want him to be the David Carr of this era.
Well, with as much as they invested in the offensive line, I sure hope not.
That's what I'm hoping not to happen, but I just have a feeling it might happen, but I don't want it to happen. But this
Sure.
season, I say that he may not be, but he probably could. I don't want that. No one wants that.
Yeah, no, I think we'll see a definite improvement this year, hopefully.
Hopefully. I feel like we've said that for a few years, but hopefully this is the one.
No, for sure.
Honestly, like another team, I think I'd want to draft
Mhm.
Seattle.
Yeah,
With that
Okay.
on my list
situation.
too.
And we're forgetting that they drafted my man, Nicky Monroy. So I had them.
Who was your
take
man
my
again?
draft. Go ahead,
Who was your man again?
Nicky Monroy. After
Oh
that,
yeah, I got him in the second round. What a pick. And Gray Zabel in the first. I think it was a great draft for Seattle too.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, it was an awesome, it was a fun draft this year. It was great recapping it with you guys, and can't wait to see how it all turns out when we get into the preseason and the regular season.
Awesome.
Huddle
Yes,
up.
it was awesome doing this with everybody. And yeah, the draft in Green Bay I think was a great success. And obviously,
Oh,
hopefully,
man.
everybody watching your team got some new players that really bring some excitement to your franchises. And I'll pass it off to Daniel to sign us off.
We will see you in the year 2026.